Portland's most respected and lowest priced office furniture dealer.
Office Furniture Direct.
Hey guys, it's Channel Weird, and exciting. We've had like a kind of sabbatical because we had some technical difficulties, but we've kind of pulled out of those. Seems like it's going around. We've had at the radio station too. We've had a few problems with the tech stuff, but this time we're gonna make it stick. This time it's gonna work, and we're very happy to be here today. Got a very special guest. We got Richard Cranor with us, and what makes him so special is this guy is like entertainer par excellence. Can I do French? I guess he's in Hollywood. He's got a band. He does a lot of great work in video, and he also did our little documentary called Heralds of the Apocalypse, and it was a remarkable piece, and it was just it just stands out as one of the best things I've ever seen. One of the best things that's ever been made about Ground Zero and about what we're doing and everything. But I want to welcome to the show Richard Cranor. Hey, buddy, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that where do I begin with you? Only that, when you and I get together, we just talk about a bunch of crap. We just throw around. And I don't know. I mean, I guess, I don't know if you're weird or you're just, mega talented or you got a lot of things going on, so many things. I guess, first of all, we need to talk about your band. Is it a death metal band? I mean, Ron always tells me it's a death metal band. It's called what? Fleischkrieg is the name of the band.
Hey, you said it right. That's impressive.
I did? Fleischkrieg? Well, it's my German. I got a German background. My grandmother was German.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. You got it. Yeah. People always, like the official classification would be something like industrial metal. So something more like a Rammstein type band or 9 Inch Nails with a little bit heavier guitar. That's I guess officially what you'd call us, that vein.
How can that? And one of the things I think people need to understand about that kind of music is it's a different type of music that takes a lot of talent. I mean, I would never. I mean, there were times in high school where I had like a band here that I do or a band there and I do vocals and I just I try to be a vocalist for bands in high school and everything else. But to be a vocalist for a band like, I don't know, Rammstein or Ministry or even Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, there's a talent to having that type of sound in your voice. And
I've almost passed out several times on stage just from the sheer amount of air that you've got to expel. Right. And you got to make these, you got to make all these sounds and shit. But I will say something interesting to people. I will say, like, the fact that your voice can make that sound is a kind of a philosophical trip for me, because why was the human body designed to make roars? You got to ask yourself that sometimes.
Well, does that come from deep down inside the unconscious mind? I mean, is that like you have to really dig deep into the bowels of hell to bring that through?
And at first I thought it was kind of like whatever, but then I realized a lot of people, I think for a lot of people, when you're singing in that style and you find a way to do it melodically, you're kind of channeling a lot of repressed anger and rage that people feel, and you're trying to find some kind of like outlet for it, which I think is actually, at the end of the day, I've discovered it's very cathartic for me personally, and then I think for other people as well. It's just kind of a question of how much can you do. And for me, like you're saying, like being on stage and doing that, I told myself in the next album I'm going to do a little bit more. Maybe we'll throw a couple extra ballads in there or something.
Right.
It's actually an athletic event. It's an athletic
exactly.
Yeah.
I went to a death metal concert once. It was hilarious. I went to a death metal concert, and I think it was Cannibal Corpse or something.
Oh yeah.
And I was there, and the guy was like, the whole time doing the music, and then at the end he said, "Drive carefully."
Well, people forget that the first Ace Ventura film had a Cannibal Corpse cameo because Jim Carrey was a huge fan of Cannibal Corpse. Yeah.
And and of course, I mean, Slayer doesn't fit in that mold because I like Slayer. I used to really get into Slayer and all the devil bands, and that's the thing that I miss about rock and roll is Satan. I just think that there needs to be more Satan in
Yeah.
rock and roll. That way
Well,
it'd be a lot better, I think. I mean, I know that people say, "What? What are you saying?" But it's true. I mean, if you were to realize just how rebellious we missed the rebellion in rock and roll. We missed the rebellion in punk rock. And I had some guy who was a listener to my show who said, "I get you now." And I go, "What do you mean?" He says, "You bitch and moan about everything because you're a punk rocker."
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. I think I am. I think, being I grew up in the 80s, and of course, I cut my hair and made it all like, Rod Stewarty, roostery and all that. And, and I thought I was pretty punky back then, and wearing eyeliner and all kind of stupid things. I
Yeah.
was so goth, I was dead. And it's, and so, I miss that. And are
Yeah.
you bringing that back with Fleisch Creek?
100%. Like I've struggled for a while. I was trying to struggle. I had a philosophical debate with myself because I'm the Satan thing. It's funny you bring that up because I was trying to figure out why was the satanic sort of element always part of early rock and punk. And, I have some struggles with that occasionally, but I've kind of come to see it as that energy is like the repressed truth in people that gets repressed. We live in a world now where you've got to be very, like the corporate system is completely taken over. So over time, that builds like a reservoir of your truth being denied and your hate. And, that the archetype for that is like the satanic energy, right? But it's really just the repressed truth in some people. That's the way I look at it philosophically. So rock and roll and punk is supposed to be about you tapping into that power, that unused power, that denied power,
Right.
and holding truth to power. That's kind of like that's a very philosophical, grandiose way of thinking about it. But I do feel you're right. Like I do feel like with Fleisch Creek, we're about like, hey man, forget about all of these playlists that you've curated for yourself,
Right.
and all the stuff you're hearing at Starbucks. I like that stuff. But there was an element back in the day, in the 70s and 80s, especially, where it was a lot more raw. It was a lot more truthful about where people were coming from. And there's a lot of power there in people, in their soul, that doesn't get expressed in a lot of today's music, because now everything has to be fucking curated or something, right? So, yeah, Fleisch Creek literally means flesh war, because I believe every day we're fighting a flesh war, which is a battle for the preservation of our sovereignty, because it's so much is coming to take that from us these days.
Yeah.
And so I know this is all like big grandiose whatever, but
it's actually I've been really focused right now on body autonomy. That the whole argument right now in the world today, from abortion to vaccines to whether or not you need medical treatments, whether or not you need to do this or this with your body, is all about body autonomy. And no matter where you stand on these ideas, whether it be yes, no, or indifferent, you need to understand that in the future, I mean, the World Health Organization right now wants to have a treaty where they can declare a health emergency whenever they want to.
Yeah.
And this means that if you don't do what you're told, they can make your life hell.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I've always had this, because deep down, I have a mutant gene myself. I have a mutant disorder. It's called tuberous sclerosis. And it's something that it appears in my skin. Most people have it worse. Some people can be crippled. Some people can be, they can be in wheelchairs. They die at an early age or whatever. And with me, it's always the skin thing. And I've had cancer 3 times and all this stuff. And it's something that plagues you when you have this mutant disorder.
Wow.
And I got it because my parents were subjected to the downwind nuclear test back in the 50s.
Wow.
And it's carried on through generations.
Wow.
And see, I've always been worried about eugenics. I've always been worried about the final solution that Hitler had, and that is the idea that, there are people that are mutants. There are people that have disorders. There are people that aren't pure. And that in the end, they will eliminate these, what they call these useless eaters. And I know there's a guy at the World Economic Forum that speaks all the time. It's like Ewan Noah, I can't remember his name, Harari or something. And he always says things like, what do we do with the useless eaters when everybody wants to convert over to transhumanism? Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm one of those useless eaters. I'm one of those guys that when they test me, all of my stuff is going to go off the charts, and I'm going to come off being this mutant, and they are going to. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I have a UPC code of spam tattooed on my arm, because I always thought that I would turn out to be mystery meat in the end. Fleischkrieg, basically what you talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty open-minded. I'm not either an anti-vax or pro-vax guy. I just think you have to always look at the other agendas that are behind some of the reasons why people want to convert to this whole transhuman thing. I'm really against the transhumanist thing, mostly because we don't have a full accounting yet of what our reality is. And I don't like the idea of a bunch of tech bros telling me that this is going to be what works best for me when their agendas aren't, I don't think they're as clear and as altruistic as their marketing suggests. So I don't, right. I think every human being, whether you believe that the aliens are here to help us or you believe that tech companies are here, you have an absolute essential duty to yourself to think about what's right for you and your body, and don't take for granted that everybody who says they're looking out for your best interest is definitely doing that. I just don't see that at all.
In fact, I was just talking about this. It was weird. I was talking about this with my staff before we went on, and I was talking about altruism. And I think we have this false sense of altruism now in this country, and that's why woke exists. That's why people do this virtue signaling nonsense, is because they want you to think that they are altruistic and they're looking out for the little guy, and that's the problem, is they see them as the little guy. That's why you see people going, oh, we have to take time to understand the Black community, when they wouldn't even step into the Black community. They wouldn't even get close to the Black community. Or we have to understand the fact that transgender people need to be recognized as blah, 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 blah. I'll bet you that none of those people really care about transgender people. And if they saw transgender people in public, they'd go, ew. And that's the problem I have with it, is I don't believe that wokeism and the quote altruism that's coupled with it is real. I think it's fake. I think it's so fake and so phony. I don't think anybody who quotes nonsense like, well, we have to take the time to understand. That's a fetishism of pity. And nobody wants to be treated that way. Nobody who has a handicap wants to be fetishized and pitied. They want to be a part of everything, even if you tell a joke about it. We work with a guy who's got a condition, and he always jokes about his condition because, I mean, if you can't joke about yourself, and if you can't joke about the people around you and the stereotypes and everything, what are we? We so full of ourselves that we can't look at ourselves and go, we have flaws. Our flesh is flawed. Do we love that, or do we have to be something else? And that's why I think transhumanism, I mean, think of Star Trek. I mean, they have data, but you don't see people wanting to be like the Borg. And I think this is the problem, is we need to understand that nobody wants to be like the Borg.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about the old conversation that Martin Luther King had with Uhura when she was asked to kiss William Shatner?
Tell that story.
So basically, there's a famous scene in the Star Trek series where it's the first interracial kiss on television, and it was between Uhura and Kirk. And Uhura didn't want to do it. She was like, no, I just don't think it's she had her reasons. And Martin Luther King was like, you know what, honestly, you should do it because the world needs to see this. Like, the world needs to see where two races can come together like this. And it's an opportunity. He knew it was an opportunity to kind of change the narrative a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so she did it. But, like today, imagine that happening today. Like, there'd be a bunch of people on Twitter raging, trying to get shares, trying to get retweets, grandstanding about, so like what you're saying is true. Like, I believe there's a lot of well-intentioned people out there, but you can't ignore the fact that there's so much angling going on with people trying to get their social media hype machine up and running, that they're willing to say and do whatever it takes, like you said, with virtue signaling. So it's hard to separate. For me, it's really hard to separate who's really being honest about their intentions versus people trying to show the world, how fucking, what a martyr they are. I just don't. I think it definitely sabotages a lot of the goodwill and the actual efforts that are being made.
One of the things I talked about, in fact, the other day, I was talking about Man in the High Castle, and I know you were in that TV show.
Yeah.
And I was talking about the whole situation with Thomas Smith. John Smith was the head Nazi dude, and his son found out that he had some sort of congenital disorder. And he volunteered himself to be killed or to be euthanized because he did not fit the T4 purity laws of Nazism. Yeah. And I talked about that, saying that is this is where we're headed. I mean, are people going to be willing to just say, hey, I'm going to off myself for the greater good? In Canada right now, you know that you can get euthanized if you feel like that you're a drag on the system. And there's that one famous scene in Man in the High Castle where that guy is a cop and he's eating a bologna sandwich and all that ash is coming down out of the sky.
Yeah.
And he says, oh, it's kind of weird that it's snowing. He goes, oh, that's not snow. That's the hospital. He says, they're burning the cripples and they're burning the
Yeah.
people who are the drags on society. And I'm thinking, what did we do with COVID? I mean, most of the people that died were older. They were fat. They were, they had comorbidities. And this is a way we cull the population.
Yeah, I again, my whole thing is you have to come up with some kind of system in your own life for understanding what's really going on, and you can't just depend upon your favorite media choices. I've revoked my membership to both the conservative and liberal death cults, as I call them, because
I agree with you. Yeah.
I just feel like you're always stuck between a bad choice and a worse choice. I think the most important thing, and I think the band's vision, my vision for the band, is to try to get people to look beyond the current, what you call paradigm of thinking what's true, what isn't true. And again, it's a battle for your own self-sovereignty and preservation. I think that's like the number one problem on this planet right now, is people not understanding what the real game is. And then how do you preserve it? How do you preserve yourself? You have a right to do this. And not just listen to every pundit or every expert's ideas for you, because a lot of those people are all funded and they're all motivated, a lot of it financially, and I just don't think that's a good enough reason for you to listen to them.
Well, and not only that, but I don't know if you've noticed that it just seems as though the people like Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates, they're creating an air of doublethink in the country right now, because they're saying, well, Gates just got COVID. And he says, I got COVID-19 I think people are going to have to get boosted every 6 months because it just seems non-effective. Well, why in the hell did you do it in the first place? If it's not effective, why are you going to continue to put this poison in your body thinking that it's going to be effective? They continue to sell poison to people, and people are so stupid that they're going to put it in their bodies because they don't think about their sovereignty. They don't think about their body integrity and their body autonomy. And that's I mean, that just bothers me that people are willing to listen to. I mean, Anderson Cooper was talking to Bill Gates the other night, asking him questions about, so what do you recommend I do? Should I get more of this or more of that? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, he's not a freaking doctor. Why are you asking him advice about what you should do with your body? Mm-hmm. And people are that lost and that infantilized that they can't make decisions for themselves.
Well, I think vaccines can be helpful in society, but the biggest issue I have with the whole COVID thing to date has been, one, the origin story of that is pretty diabolical, and we can get into that in a minute. But the other thing is, like, you can spend 5 seconds on PubMed or any one of these large academic websites that have studies listed. And I mean, every single one of these studies about COVID all shows that, I mean, this is really crazy, but like vitamin D supplementation alone would have been enough to reduce substantially the amount of people in hospitals who died. I mean, it's all over. And so that information I've never heard anyone talk about that in the mainstream media. And I'm not saying, I mean, everybody has their opinion, a vax is the worst idea in the world, but to not have had that information out to the public. By the way, there was a study done, I think it's at the University of Virginia. It was very early on in the epidemic, where researchers there, because they were frontline people, they had to face this disease every day in the intensive care units. They developed this protocol involving vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and quercetin. And I don't know if it's a cure, but everybody who took it, this is all done above the board in a major university, didn't get the COVID, and those who had it and were treated with it didn't wind up in the ICU. So that information I never heard once broadcast anywhere. So you're not giving. So the problem I have is you're not giving people an alternative. You're saying it's either going to be all this way. Either get the vax or you don't. You die and you're a horrible person. And so
talking about this is going to get us a strike if we're on YouTube. You know that, right? Just because
I'm sure it does.
Because you just can't discuss something openly anymore. I mean, this whole idea of a ministry of truth even though they put that on ice. And I can tell you why they put it on ice, because Jankowicz is a lunatic, this scary Poppins, if you want to call her that. She's just a lunatic. And we'll get into more Richard Cranor with this on Channel Weird. I'm just so glad we have Richard with us. He's just a breath of fresh air to sit and talk with him about a lot of things in the world, being in the media that he is, and of course his band Fleischkrieg. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Channel Weird. Don't go away. On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
You know, a lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea, TEA.com.
Fantastic.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain, and the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com. Musician, actor, producer, a lot of rock star, Richard Cranor with us on Channel Weird today. We're so happy to have him with us, and we're having this really deep, dark discussion about body autonomy, about sovereignty, because his band Fleischkrieg is kind of that's the whole message, is that we need to be aware of who we are and what we're capable of. You know, I don't know when it began. Really, I mean, I guess it's because of the fact that, and I've kind of interpreted this as, I don't think people really thought about their mortality until they had it blasted to them every day on CNN. In other words, you know, instead of getting the national weather reports, we were getting the body counts.
Yeah.
And they wanted to push body count. And I just found that to be a part of psychological warfare. What are your thoughts on that?
I really think what it came down to is, have you heard of the Drastic Research Network? They're an online consortium of doctors, and this is all above board. This has all been reported in Vanity Fair, The Telegraph, major news publications. They're basically a group of doctors who were trying to understand the origins of COVID. And what they figured out is that what most likely happened is Fauci was trying to develop a SARS vaccine, because SARS, up until COVID, SARS was the #1 danger to the world. It kept coming out of China, and causing this problem. So he was looking for a bat vaccine for that. And he approached DARPA with a protocol where, they were going to target the ACE receptors in mice. They were going to come up with a coronavirus chimera, and they were going to use it as a way to test the effectiveness of a possible bat vaccine, which they were going to spray into the Chinese caves. None of this stuff is, trust me, none of this stuff is conspiracy. This is all above board, part of some of the EcoHealth paperwork. And it's, again, part of the Jurassic Research Network and a lot of other things, which you can look up. None of this stuff is partisan. None of this stuff is that. So at the end of the day, what I think happened is Fauci got really aggressive with trying to come up with a solution for a possible future SARS outbreak. He went behind Obama's back and did the gain of function research that he shouldn't have done with an organization in China that wasn't up to the job. And ever since they had that leak, he's been trying to cover his ass. And anything you can do to pump up and make the whole conversation either pro or anti-vax, the more you get rid of the third-party solutions and you get rid of any other conversation that will prevent another freaking outbreak from happening. So my thing is, instead of getting stuck playing I'm on this team, I'm the pro-vax or I'm the anti-vax, like, I want to know what really happened.
Do you think they should outlaw gain of function exercises? Because it just seems to me that everything that happens is because they release something and they can't control it. They lose control of it. And I don't think people understand that since the times of MK Naomi, which was a military basically testing on human subjects, whether it be Tuskegee, where they were giving syphilis to soldiers, or dropping cadmium sulfide on St. Louis. Yep. They've been doing this for a long time. And I think it was the Clinton administration that exposed it, saying that they weren't going to do it again. But now they're doing it in other ways. And I think one of the biggest, I guess you could call it, chemical experiments they're conducting on the people is COVID-19 vaccines. And that's, that is not conspiracy theory either, because now we're hearing about, and I was just reading, and this is above board too, I was just reading about the idea that there's women now that have gotten the vaccine that are sloughing off their uterine wall, and it's leading to infertility. They did tests. These new Pfizer leaks said they did tests on pregnant women, and 95% of those women lost their babies or were going into what are called spontaneous abortions. I mean, these were things that were going on, and they kept it from the public. And now everybody's triggered about Roe v. Wade. But what they need to be aware of is that these experiments, and we got liver problems with kids now. We got kids getting hepatitis and they're having liver failure. And they say, well, they don't know why. I can tell you why, because they're being exposed to things that their bodies aren't used to. And it could be something completely out of the blue happening here. Now we got the monkeypox scare going on. And monkeypox, some people are saying, well, monkeypox is a lot like getting what do they call that? Shingles. And shingles are actually what are the side effects of the vaccine? In fact, my wife apparently got it after she got vaccinated. So, I mean, what do we believe anymore? That's the problem. Is they say that disinformation is the problem, and they have this whole ministry of truth that they create, and then they put it on ice, because I think a lot of people calling it the ministry of truth send a message to Washington saying, you guys are playing the Orwell gig. It's okay, we don't want to play the Orwell gig anymore, so now they're going to play the Huxley gig, and we're going to all be drugged out of our minds, and we're going to be happy, and we're going to own nothing, and being drugged out of our minds, and we're going to enjoy that. I mean, what are your thoughts?
All I know is Dr. Salk, when he invented the polio vaccine, he did not patent it, and he did not sell it to anybody. He gave it away for free. And that was a major reason probably why that vaccine development was above board, because it didn't have people who had financial agendas involved. And when you shove a vaccine through the trials as quickly as they shoved the COVID vaccine through, you can't avoid having some problems, no matter how well your intentions may or may not have been. So it's a bad idea to make it an either or conversation. And when you look at the other factors that I feel are involved with Fauci trying to cover up, because he knew exactly where it came from. you're leveraging people's fear, and you're forcing something to happen and the problem is that people haven't, like you just talked about the St. Louis thing, like people don't realize there's a long history of the United States lying to people and then coming back 5 or 10 years or later going, oh, I'm sorry, we lied to you. And people going, oh, okay. And guess what happens? Continue to get lied to, because even if people have good intentions, the bureaucracy and the machine that's in play in these situations, when you're given only a couple choices, finds a way to capitalize on your reluctance to dig a little deeper and ask for other solutions. And so for me, like the easiest thing, the most simple thing, that who was that CNN doctor, Sanjay, whatever, he could have come out, he could have said, look, until we get all of this vaccine stuff figured out, why don't you guys do this in your diet, add these supplements to your diet, and make yourself more robust so that you're not so weak and dependent upon the shit that we're saying and the lies that we're telling to cover our asses from everything we did wrong with our, setup to this, where we went to China and trusted these guys who were morons, couldn't handle operating in this situation. So that would have been the right thing to say and do. Instead,
well, and not only that, but I mean, you look at CNN, and when Joe Rogan said he was using ivermectin, they immediately accused him of using horse dewormer. So that stuck. That idea that, hey, you can take horse dewormer to get rid of your. But ivermectin was a well-known drug that was used to treat malaria or to treat diseases such as this. And so they did the world a disservice by calling it horse dewormer, because now people are saying, well, you get horse dewormer? What are you thinking? What do you and see, that's the problem, is they accuse conspiracy theorists of embellishing or otherwise changing the context. And yet I can point out, and I'm sure you can too, many times that the media has done the same thing, that they've spun conspiracy theory, and the problem is they do it in a political way. And
that's the problem. That's
the problem. And so if you say, well, this isn't fair in politics, I'll say, well, what are you, a Trump supporter? No.
Exactly. Right.
Damn you for pushing me into that position, because I have to point out to you, no, there was no evidence of Russian collusion. No, there was no evidence the Steele dossier was true. No, there's no evidence that horse dewormer is something bad that you should take for COVID. And just go down the list of things, and immediately they'll say to you, well, what are you, a conservative? No, I'm just a person who's saying, look, they're lying to you. And then they turn around, and this is the thing they find most interesting, is you look at January 6th, for example, they call it the big lie. The idea that the election was fraudulent, and they call it the big lie. And I'm going, do you realize that the big lie is a term that was created by Goebbels, calling it the big lie, saying that you can tell a lie to the people and they'll believe it, even if the lie, no matter what the lie is, even if it's a big lie, the people will believe it. And I'm thinking, you're using Nazi terminology while all the while you're calling out people who are Nazis. And I look at this and I'm going, do people understand history? Apparently not. Do people understand buzzwords? Apparently not. And so I try to tell people this. I'm sure they're looking at me going, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Why should I believe you? And it's just frustrating that, you just quote history,
Yeah, it is history repeating, and I have a lot of trouble with that, because what most people don't realize is you're being squeezed into saying what you need to say through the lens of whatever political ideation you think you need to be supporting to look for your own optics or for your own belief system. But not everything should be decided that way. Like I have zero opinion on ivermectin, but here's what I know about ivermectin. The U.S. government, DARPA, used it or considered it to be the only viable, let's say, antiviral that they were going to use if something went wrong with this study that Fauci was trying to put through with the coronavirus. So whether it works or not, I don't know, but they thought it would work, in case something did happen. So that is what it is. It's not a political thing. It's not a left or a right thing. It's just something that was on the books as an antiviral. So that's why it was used, and that's why people tried to use it. Whether it works or not, I have no idea. But like when you start going, well, if you talk about ivermectin at all, makes you conservative or right winger, it's like, no, I'm just trying to have a conversation about the fact that these people over here said it might work in case this scenario played out.
Right.
It's not how I feel about it. It's not anything to do with that. But then if you don't say that right, if you don't communicate that clearly enough, you get immediately pushed into this other category, and then everybody stops listening. They stop listening.
Right.
To
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate this is where we are now, because again, they term it. They say hate speech is something that we don't approve of. That if it's something that goes against our grain, we'll immediately call it hate speech. We'll call it disinformation. We'll label you a domestic terrorist. Yeah. And I was telling people, look, First Amendment rights are being kicked around right now. It's almost Orwellian the way it's done. Second Amendment rights going to be next. People are always worried their guns are going to be taken. They probably are going to be taken away eventually. But the Fourth Amendment right is your body autonomy. The idea that you're not going to be searched or seized or whatever, and your body parts and whatever else are not going to be looked into. Your body cavities are not going to be searched. You're not going to be forced to get any medical treatments you don't want. But that's changing too. And I remember back when jobs, places of employment were actually requiring people to get vaccines. And I said, that's coercion. It'd be like me bringing a secretary into the room and saying, look, I want to do you right now on my desk. And if you don't do me on this desk right now, you're going to lose your job. What's the difference between jabbing a secretary and jabbing someone that, with a needle? There's no difference. It's the same thing. Because what you're doing is you're infiltrating a body, and you're going to jab it with something, or you're going to attack it. It's like rape. It's like you're being forced to do something that you don't want to do, and it's going against your integrity. It's going against your bodily integrity, your body autonomy, and that's why I say you connect the dots in the continuum, and you realize that this is the end. This is what they call the final solution. This is what Hitler called the final solution: is you're immediately, or you're eventually going to take out those who do not follow the rules. You're going to take out those who are a drag on society. You're going to take out those that they consider useless eaters. And they've used that term. At the World Economic Forum, they've used that term to describe people that are a drag on the system, the elderly, even women. Women are even considered a drag on the system in some respects. Babies, unborn babies. And that's why, you think it's an accident? The baby formula is not being given to the kids right now? It's a scarcity, starvation ploy that's been around since 1974.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of outsourcing all of your decisions about your body, your future, to the tech elite, to politicians, people whose bank accounts are far larger than yours, and who have got systems in play and resources and backup plans that don't include you, and expecting them, these competing mafias of industrialists, to know what's in your best interest, I think is just the biggest problem facing people today. I think there's a much bigger game afoot. I'm big into, reptilians and archons and all that kind of stuff. So I really think this is a battle of the soul more than in the physical body as an extension of the soul. And if you can corrupt the physical body enough and create limitations for it, you can force people to abdicate. I'm not sure that's a word, but leave their soul behind, or splinter from their soul. And then you have access to their mind, and you have access to whatever happens from that point forward. So it's like this battle I think we're in, because there's a lot of competing ideology here. I'm very middle of the road when it comes to politics. I believe there are good upsides to the modern medical system and vaccines.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm completely not going to fall for, whatever Elon Musk or Fauci or someone just tells me outright, because I know they've got issues. They've got their own set of problems. They've got their own bureaucracies that have, malevolence in some cases built into them. And it's not that easy. It's not that you should just go accepting whatever alternative without thinking about the other alternatives. And for me, it was literally coming across that report by the University of Virginia, 3 months into COVID, when I realized, okay, these people had to make something work for them, because they were in danger every day. They weren't living in some isolated mansion somewhere and safe from it all. They had to go every day to the ER and deal with people. So they came up with something that in the interim worked enough to keep them alive. And that, to me, is important information that should have been shared with everybody. And the fact that wasn't shared is my beef. And that means that I wasn't given a chance, for me to come up with my own self-autonomous way to try to fight this.
Right.
I was going to have to choose between a parent in some custody battle. And it's that's not how we should be leading the American people or the world.
I've always felt like if I'm forced to like something, I hate it. It's like if I have to like someone, if I'm being told you need to support this, or you need to like this, or you need to, I say, screw it. If I can't live with it and I can't live without it, the best thing to do is ignore it, or the best thing to do is avoid it.
You get old enough. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you get old enough in life. You've just seen it all. I'm at that point. I'm 47. I've seen it all. I know even the best intentioned people aren't always crossing every T and dotting every I. They're leaving shit out that they forgot to tell you about. And so I'm not going to just listen to whoever because I'm supposed to. I know that for a lot of people, even the most well-intentioned people, there's stuff going on at cross purposes to their aim. And so I've got to look out for myself.
They call those noble lies. I'm telling you a lie because I think it's for your own good. That's or the lies of omission, where there's still lies even though you.
Well,
have
that's the worst. That's the
Yeah.
biggest problem today, and that's
Yeah,
actually a big problem in science. Is the
Right.
lying through omission? Like they'll not tell you about those results that they had in their trials for the greater
Right.
good. It's like, well, you should probably know about some of that.
Ignorance is not an excuse unless you're a politician. That's the problem. Is that you can feign ignorance, or you can say I did not know, and those in power will say, well, you should have known. If you say that to a politician, Paul says, "Oh, whatever, it doesn't apply to me because I'm ahead of you." We have Richard Cranor with us today on Channel Weird. We're gonna be back with more. Stay tuned right here. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. With the rise of the cancel culture and an increase in social media censorship, we needed to make a big change. So we decided to create a very unique digital platform. It's called Aftermath.media. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring an interactive social media section with a chat room, videos, audio clips, archived Ground Zero podcasts, documents, books, and magazines. Our news aggregator provides current news relating to many of the topics we cover. We're expanding our research and study groups as well, which presently includes Tracy Twyman, William Cooper, Nate Russell, and Jim Keith. Also, check out popular podcast Conspirafact with Wes and Bill. Updated apps will be available soon. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month, and if you sign up now for the yearly subscription, it's only $79. If you want to hear the shows you love and support Great Talk Radio, go to Aftermath.media. Again, that's Aftermath.media. Right now, the world couldn't be more chaotic. History shows us what gold does when the world goes crazy. It goes up in value. Right now, we're in unprecedented times. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the devaluation of the US dollar. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against the hyperinflation that's happening right now. So, what can you do to protect yourself? This is what you do. Call my friend Alan Johnson at United Gold Group. He's dedicated to helping people secure their retirement income. He'll help you with gold, silver, and other precious metals and show you how to set up your own self-directed IRA. Safe and secure, United Gold Group makes gold ownership easy and affordable. There couldn't be a better time. Call now and get a Silver American Eagle proof set with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. Again, that's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. On the phone with me is Ronnie from GetTheTea.com. Hey, Ronnie, it is the tea that makes you go, I know this because I use it. My favorite is pomegranate. What kind of flavors are there to choose from with this wonderful tea?
You can do pomegranate. You can do just the straight, which is real good. And also we have a mint, a peppermint. People really love that one too. And we have a couple new flavors on the way, which I will not discuss yet, but they're coming.
A lot of people don't know that peppermint is a very, very good supplement to keep the stomach happy. It relaxes the intestines, and once again, it makes you feel better because it allows them to move around and get that stuff out of you, that bad stuff out of you.
Absolutely. This is a digest mover. So people have a hard time digesting stuff, or you get something stuck, or maybe you're a real heavy meat eater. The tea is wonderful. That's why it's tagline, the tea that makes you go.
If I want my life to change and get the tea, where do I go to get it?
GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea, TEA.com.
Fantastic. Richard Cranor's with us. Of course, we're very glad to have him here. He's a rock star, producer, videographer, all kinds of great stuff that he's involved with right now. We were talking about choice. We were talking about body autonomy. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that, yes, you do have a choice. You have a choice to do something with yourself. I remember when I had my cancer, they gave me the choice, either chemo or they said painful surgeries. I said painful surgeries. And I think enduring that pain has kept me alive. Sometimes pain is a great teacher. And we learn a lot from the pain and struggle we go through. And I think a lot of people want to avoid pain and struggle. And that's the thing that builds character. I mean, I know that you've been through some health problems as well, and you've overcome them. And then what you did is you made something of yourself again by going to by going out and writing a book about human trafficking. I mean, you went to Cambodia. Tell us that story.
Well, so I had cancer, and I had stage 3 testicular cancer. It was so bad we actually had to call Lance Armstrong's doctor and figure out, what would be a good protocol for me, because it was a pretty advanced stage. And I did the chemo and I did the surgery. And after that, I was like, I got to get out of here and see the world in case something happens again. So I decided to go to Southeast Asia. I had a friend that was cheap. And it's a long story. I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. But the long short of it is, I took a budget tour to a very remote part of Cambodia where there really isn't much of a infrastructure, let's say, and it's on a border. It's a border town called Phoi Phe. And I got there, and I was basically tricked by the local ex-Khmer Rouge human traffickers into going along with them. They portrayed themselves as being the border patrol, and basically they tried to shove me in a car with a bunch of women they were trafficking, and I ran and hid inside the jungle. And then eventually there was this weird Mos Eisley type renegade like casino place that was out in the middle of the jungle, and I hid inside there and bribed some people, got into a car, snuck off to the airport. Actually, they tried to get me at the airport. Long story. I wound up being a refugee in Singapore for about 3 days. And then finally I got a friend to wire me some money and get home. But I mean, I came pretty close to disappearing for good after already surviving that. So I just remember going, man, I got to take it easy.
Right.
Yeah, I got to figure out another solution here for whatever. But it was a big wake up call to how parts of the world are very, very dark and have this stuff going on. And human trafficking, seeing all these women being trafficked and whatnot, it was really heartbreaking, to know that this is their economy. Like, their economy is human flesh. And again, it's all part of this whole, I think, Fleisch Creek thing that I've been doing. Is like, I realize that we are a target and a resource for a lot of people, a lot of forces, very dark forces. And, if we don't do something about it, that was the one thing too that hit me, was like, there was nobody coming to my rescue. I mean, I was screwed. And it didn't matter how much of an American I thought I was. There's no Marines to call. There's no 911. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5". I can handle myself, but you got a whole country of people in this area that were devoted to one business. The police were all in on it. I tried going to the police. They just looked the other way. I saw them exchanging money. So, it was a life lesson in naivety, for one. And two, there's an industry out there that peddles human flesh that doesn't have any sympathy. And people that you think are normal could be involved in these things. The one thing I'll never forget is talking to these kids, because they were kids to me. They're like 19, 20-year-old kids. And they were on their phones, and they were just like normal kids. But I'm like, wait a second. These people, their day job is, rape and murder and organ harvesting.
Mm-hmm.
These it's just and then your instinct in a lot of those cases is to give up hope, play along. And that predator mindset knows that, and they know that you're going to most likely try to just make the best of it and play along and hope for the best. But
they can jail you for exposing this, because I remember my wife did an interview with a guy who wanted to expose the Falun Gong situation. And he was I think he was in Cambodia at the time, and he was speaking in a location that he was hoping he had a secure line, because he was afraid that the authorities would come after him for exposing the organ harvesting. I know that Southeast Asia has been a hotbed for child sex trafficking. I was involved with the Don't Buy Thai boycott back in the day with Andrew Vax, who was a lawyer who was actually taking that as his cause. And for the longest time, you get into investigating human trafficking, child trafficking, pedophilia. It's a very real thing, but it gets so dark.
It gets dark.
It gets so dark that you cannot breathe. It's to that point where you cannot breathe. I had a producer of my show, Tracy Twyman, who was investigating that. She died, and we're still wondering, how she came to that. But she was exposing this, and she went to the FBI, and then, weeks later, she was found dead. I remember that. They termed it a suicide, but still, I mean, she was getting close, and it was, there are a lot of people in high places that don't want you to speak of this.
Well, let me tell you something. I was told later that some of the people that they take from this area, because you have a lot of backpackers who read a Lonely Planet guidebook. Oh, I'm going to go ride some elephants in Cambodia, right? So it's all hyped up as being this thing. It's all going to be great. And you get your Instagram pics and you're good. The thing is, this area called Poipe was actually in another movie with Dolph Lundgren, actually a couple of years after I left, called Skin Trade, which was all about being trafficked. But the thing is when I was there, I found out that the Saudi royal families, or I don't know if it's the Saudis, the rich Saudis, will sometimes take people from this area. Like, this is a black hole, basically, in the geopolitical landscape. No country really lays claim to this area. And so anybody going in and out of this is basically, just on the market, whether they realize it or not. And a lot of countries, a lot of rich families pull people from here, apparently. Like, I mean, it was all news to me. I didn't know what to make of it at first, but when I got out and I did the research later, that's what I found out, that this is an epicenter for human trafficking all over the world, not just Southeast Asia, but the people that get picked up here go to China, they go to Africa, they go to the Middle East, they might go to Europe. I mean, it's a free for all.
Well, conspiracy theorists and you got the QAnon thing saying that human trafficking is going on, and they talk about Hollywood being a hotbed for pedophilia. I mean, you're right smack dab in the middle of that, being in the Hollywood. You're not really Hollywood glitterati, but you're certainly working with people in that area, being a producer. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I hate to bring that up because it's like a political hate list, and I'm sure that not everybody on that list are pedophiles, or anybody that's in Epstein's black book could be a pedophile as well. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I've met some really wonderful people. So I know that there's some good people down here, people that are trying to work for a living and do good work. That being said, I mean, there's some people down here that I would stay away from, and I think are connected to all of that. The most because what I don't get into is this person is this person. Like, I know for sure that this person is a reptilian pedophile. I don't do that because I really don't know. But I've seen enough and heard enough to know that the possibility is real, that there's a lot of child sex. There's a lot of pedophilia that's happened in the past, and it's probably happening now. Here's something funny. Today I got offered a part in a film that I was asked that I'd have to show my butt. So here's it's actually a friend of mine who's doing an indie film, but it's just kind of funny that you brought that up, because I literally was asked to do some butt stuff today from a buddy of mine. I hope he's a buddy of mine. I don't know. So there you go. Like, but no, like it's one of those things where like people want to say, I think it's sometimes like everything's corrupt. I don't think that's true, but there is, if you want to, I do believe that in the upper circles of power, that there is something very nefarious where they use and they leverage the power of Hollywood for sure for their own gain. So yeah, I think some of those stories are absolutely true. Are they all true? I don't know, but some of them definitely.
Well, there's a lot of darkness everywhere, I'm sure. And to focus one area and say this is all pedophilia and other things aren't because of political. I see that all the time. Well, because of their political leanings, they can't be pedophiles. There are plenty of pedophiles on the left as well as the right that certainly need to be exposed and let the guilty be actually.
Well, I'm like 1 degree separated from Corey Feldman. I'm 1 degree, and everybody that I know who's friends with him that are my friends have told me that he's not lying about anything.
I'm sure he's not.
Yeah, he's had a tough life.
He's seen it all.
Yeah.
Talk about, I mean, you're doing you're director of photography in Destination LA. It's on CBS now. Tell us about that. Just
really cool. I got, again, there's some really great people that I ran into, I think on LinkedIn. I applied for a job there, and I've been shooting episodes for them. And I think it's been great. I mean, it's been a fun little show. It's actually helped a lot of small businesses that were hit hard by COVID. You're kind of giving them some advertising time, and the show does well. And the organization that is creating that show, Making It Media, they're now nominated for 4 Emmys. So yeah, I mean, that worked out pretty good. It's one of those LA dream situations where you come down and you try to find work and you finally land something that's good. So,
well, I mean, you've got an eye for you got an eye for finding those nuances in your work, because of course you did Heralds of the Apocalypse, and it's funny because I think you really did capture in that movie, and for those of you that haven't seen it, it's at aftermath.media, and it's also on our website. When you did Heralds of the Apocalypse about our show, and you captured, I think you were there right after Oregon went through, or Portland went through its phase of let's burn down everything and destroy everything.
Yeah.
You captured the nuance of everything that was about downtown. I mean, people will deny that downtown is nothing like that. But no, it's everything that you made it out to be at the time.
Yeah.
And I was very happy that you did that, because they're saying, well, it's only in a small area, but no, it's throughout the entire area, and it's still that way. They haven't changed a thing. Our government still continues to ignore the fact that we've got a homeless population that's out of control.
Yeah.
And they're actually planning for more peaceful protests coming up this summer, and it just seems to be this place where it's just been having the tar beaten out of it. I was just curious if you're planning on doing a Heralds of the Apocalypse too, because that'd be kind of...
Hey, I love hanging out with you guys. I love Portland, even when it gets all beat up. For me, that documentary, the one thing I wanted to achieve visually with that, and say visually, and it wasn't hard to do, was regardless of your motivations for whatever, like there's a cost, to innocence, and a cost to normal people's lives when this turmoil happens. And it's not, I'm not even judging the reasons behind the turmoil. I'm just saying this is the reality. Like things get pretty fucked up, and there's an irony to all the goodwill you're trying to do, while at the same time, creating all of this chaos. And I don't even know if it's worth judging. I'm not sure I even have an opinion other than just this is the reality, because I get tired of people trying to spin things. Oh, well, we're doing all this for justice, and then this is really happening. This is all what the other side's saying. No, I mean, when you go to protest, things get fucking violent. Things just
even if it's like I'm partial to it because it's about my show and about my crew and about my group.
Yeah.
But one thing that I want to admire about it too is it is the first time I've ever seen anyone do guerrilla journalism, and what I mean by that is that you were doing this up against COVID.
Yeah.
Think about it, because I mean, we were told, no, you can't film here, you can't film that, you can't do this, you can't do that because of COVID-19, and I just thought to myself, but you went into what would be considered a zero area. Don't do this. Don't go in there.
Yeah.
And you did, and it just painted a picture at the time. I mean, if you want to see a piece of history or a choice piece of history, forget the fat guy that he's interviewing. Me, look at what he's done visually. I think that I think that needs to be shown here, because
the homeless stuff.
That's the point.
Honestly, the homeless stuff is scarier than the COVID, because you got hepatitis out there, you've got all kinds of diseases going on, and these poor people are stuck in the middle of that. And however your feelings are about, homelessness and whatever, there's all that drug use and all that poverty and all that lack of the city, I think, trying to figure out a way to really deal with it without getting bogged down in all the political parts of that, which I understand are pretty whatever. But Portland's a beautiful city, and it's going through a lot. And that documentary for me was a chance to kind of see and try to show how you guys, add what you're doing to the situation to try to bring enlightenment to it. At the same time, just show the reality of what it is without a bunch of bias towards, what it should be portrayed or not. Like, I just like getting in the middle of things and showing people, here's what is really happening, the good and the bad. However you want to
maybe we can do a sequel where we're showing renewal, but that's not going to come anytime soon. I don't think. I mean, look. I mean, they just had what the Menstrual Equality Act passed here, where they're putting tampons in boys' restrooms now. So it just goes to show you how weird it is to be in this part of the world. And I don't know. I love
dumpster fires make for great TV though. Dumpster fires are always rubber bullets and dumpster fires, man. People like those get hits.
People love that. Yeah, rubber. You got to do the next one. Heralds of the Apocalypse, rubber bullets and dumpster fires, starring Clyde Lewis and his crew. I shake my head and say, when is it going to end? When are we going to wake up and realize that the psychopaths are running the show?
I think it's an inner development that most people aren't equipped to do, unfortunately. But I feel, this is just my inner philosopher coming out, but ultimately none of these problems are going to be fixed via politics or social causes that people have, because the people that are behind the social causes, even if it's the most valiant, noble social cause, are messed up. A lot of them have problems that are deeply personal, and no one's immune from being a psychopath or a narcissist, regardless of what banner you've got on your profile pic. Like, it doesn't matter. I've just learned this through being alive. And so ultimately, like to be like very existential about this, it's going to come down to individuals just trying to do their best to improve individually. And I think through osmosis and dealing with the irony of the dark and the light, the Satan and the God and everybody, that at some point we're going to get a little bit more truthful maybe about what's happening. And maybe that helps. I don't know.
If you're going to be an altruist, please be real.
Please be real. Like,
don't be fake. Don't sit there and pretend like you care when you don't care. Don't
There's
hashtag something about black equality when you won't even step foot in a black community and do your part. It's insane. People think that if they hashtag something, they're doing their best.
Most of the time when you see a Black Lives Matter picture or a frame, it's in a very affluent, rich white neighborhood. You know, that's what I've seen a lot of. And I'm like,
it's life insurance is what it is.
It's like, don't burn down my house.
Yeah, that's what it is. I'm very cynical when I see that. Don't burn down my house. Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, that's all it really is.
I don't know. Hopefully we can shake our cynicism and be more hopeful. Richard, I know your work is remarkable. We've seen your work. Like I say, Destination LA on CBS, Heralds of the Apocalypse. You can see it on our and Fleischkrieg. We'll be hearing more about that. Richard Cranor, we thank you for being on Channel Weird today, and it was a great interview. I was like, you and I have been goofing, between the sets. Still, we're being very serious about what we goof around about, and I think
you gotta have a sense of humor about some of this. You just go nuts. So
I mean, it's like we gotta laugh or amuse yourself to a certain degree. Otherwise, you're just going to become very sad, because it's a sad time. It's a very chaotic time, and I think people need to take little by little and understand that it can be whatever we want can be accomplished. We do make a difference, and we do so by using art and music and whatever we can do to demonstrate that it doesn't have to be as dark and as dismal as we make it out to be. And I know sometimes people say, "Well, Clyde, you do a lot of doom and gloom," and I say, "Well, there's a lesson to be learned from warning people of what can be, rather than telling people what is, and what is still something that needs to be taken care of."
It's a truthful accounting of what's going on. I think the inner light exists in people even now, even the most dark times. We just got to figure out how to get that out into the physical Fleisch reality that we live in.
Yes. The truth shall set you free, but it'll piss you off in the process.
Absolutely.
Richard Cranor has done that many times with his guerrilla journalism and his good stuff. Richard, thank you for being on the program. This is Channel Weird. I'm Clyde Lewis, and join us again. We certainly enjoy we're going to be doing something next week. We're going to be pre-taping the show. We usually do it live. We're going to be pre-taping the show. It's going to be running about 7. It's going to run at 7 p.m. on Saturday, and again 7 p.m. on Sundays. So you can catch it pre-taped and played out from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, right here at TalkStream PDX. Or you can podcast PDX, or you can watch it on the Facebook channel, the Ground Zero Facebook channel. Again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.